How's it going, everyone? It's Kay Lumity here, and today we're going to be talking about a game that I've been excited to play for a while, and I was actually waiting for this game to release on Xbox Series X before I played it, and it finally came out on Xbox Series X this year. We are going to be talking about My Friendly Neighborhood. This is a game that, like I said, I've been looking forward to because I like mascot horror games. I think that they're pretty fun. I like the idea of them. I like the idea of having this kind of cutesy veneer over a really dark storyline and a really creepy storyline. And I will say, I actually do enjoy the story of this game. Unfortunately, the gameplay is where I kind of had to disconnect with this game. And I'm not even going to say that this is a bad game, because I don't think that this is a bad game at all. I didn't realize what this game was going to be, and it's really not my type of thing personally. However, I think that this game definitely has an audience. It definitely has people that will love it, especially because of what this game is based off of. This game plays very similar to the old Resident Evil games. You have the same type of storage system where you kind of have to, move stuff around to make room for whatever items you want to carry. You have the same sort of exploration where there's a lot of backtracking, a lot of, exploration, a lot of puzzle solving and stuff like that. All stuff that I'm honestly not a huge fan of when it comes to video games. Like, I love exploration, but I'm not a huge fan of trying to solve puzzles and backtracking to solve the puzzle. I'm not a big fan of that stuff. So this game honestly isn't for me, but if you like that type of stuff, if you like solving puzzles, if you like, backtracking to solve the puzzles, and if you like exploring to do all those things, then you'll probably enjoy this game, honestly. But it's just not really my type of thing personally, and that's okay. But I did go ahead and complete it. I used a guide after a while because I just kind of got bored of it, and I was just like, okay, this isn't really my thing. I just need to keep playing and get through this. Because honestly, I was tempted not to even talk about this game because I almost just kind of stopped early and was just like, this isn't for me. But I figured I'd go ahead and finish it. That way I can at least enjoy the story. Because I did enjoy the story, The entire story is really just like an interesting comparison of how the Vietnam War is and how the veterans are kind of treated and how they come back with, struggling with, their own thoughts and stuff. And I do kind of like that. The main character is a veteran, and even though it's not Vietnam in the game, it's basically Vietnam. It's all a big reference to Vietnam, basically. And I like the story. I think the story and the lore is actually pretty interesting. I like the main character, Gordon. I actually think he's a pretty cool character. And I even like these little puppets that are talking to him the entire time. And it's kind of interesting because a lot of these puppets are kind of like the emotions that he's going through, and they're basically just manifested in the form of these puppets that are like chasing you down. And I don't want to give too many spoilers because it would be pretty easy to spoil this game, but it is pretty interesting how they did it. It's a pretty cool allegory, and I like the way that they did it. I think that the story is cool, and I just wish I enjoyed the gameplay more because I really wanted to enjoy all of this game. I will say the gunplay is actually pretty fun. In this game, you run around with a gun a lot of the times, and the gun is really fun to use. I actually enjoy using it. The guns are very silly. You shoot letters at the puppets to knock them out and stuff like that. I like that stuff, though. I think it's silly and over the top, and I really enjoyed it. I like the different guns that you can find in this. You're carrying a shotgun at one point. You have basically like a handgun that you can find that shoots letters out of it. I like that stuff. You even have grenades that you can find. The grenades just explode a bunch of letters around. So that stuff is cool. There's even a couple boss fights in this game that I enjoyed as well. So I enjoyed the actual combat. I think the combat is fun. I do wish that there was more ammo and stuff available, especially with how much backtracking you do. Because, you run through your ammo a lot doing all that backtracking. You can tie up the enemies when you knock them down. You can use duct tape to tie up the puppet enemies that are around. And you can try to, basically, you can try to tie them up, and when you come back, you won't have to worry about them in the future. However, you don't really have enough duct tape to tie down every single enemy, so you are going to be using ammo a lot of times whenever you're going back through these areas. And it just kind of is what it is. I wish they would have added more ammunition for sure. That would have been a lot nicer. But what can you do? Now, this game does actually have melee combat as well. However, it's not good. That is one area where I will legitimately say it's actually pretty bad. Most of this game I won't actually say is bad just because, it's just not my thing. But this is one thing I can objectively say is pretty bad. The actual melee combat in this game, it's rough. The hitboxes are really weird because you can't be right up on someone to hit them because the way that the game works, the puppets will grab you. So you have to actually stand further back and swing your wrench at them to hit them, and it feels very off. It's very off-putting because it doesn't feel like you're close enough to hit them, but if you get any closer, they'll grab you. So it's not a great mechanic in this game, and honestly, I kind of think that melee combat, if you're going to do these like jump scare type attacks that these puppets have, I kind of think melee combat just shouldn't have even been in the game at that point. Or you needed to do some way to revamp it, or just make the attacks different from the puppets. Like, if the puppets just act stupid, swing their arms around and hit you, and that counts as damage, let that be the case, you know? That would have been better than the actual melee combat that's in the game. One thing that I gotta point out too is how many loading screens this game has. Like, every door you open has another loading screen behind it. I don't know why there's so many loading screens, but I feel like in 2025 there should not be this many loading screens. This is like worse than Skyrim's loading screens because it's just like you're in one room, you open a door, there's another loading screen, and at least they're quick. But it breaks up the flow of the game so bad. It really does break up the pace of the game. The main character that you're playing as, his name is Gordon. Like I said, he's a veteran. He's going through a hard time, but he is now basically a maintenance man, and his job wants him to go in and basically repair this old abandoned studio because for some reason this puppet show that has been canceled a long time ago is starting to like air over the news. It's starting to take over the news and take over the airwaves. So he was sent in to basically shut it down permanently. And like I said, it actually does a really good job kind of tying in the story of the tragedy of war and stuff into this like puppet video game, where this puppet horror video game. It does a good job of tying in the story and actually intertwining those two things very well. So I like the way that they did that. And I like the story even. I like just, the way that it gets you to this area. I like that you can actually end the game early. I thought that was kind of funny. You can actually, at one point, just get in the truck that you came in, and you can just drive off like halfway through the game, and you actually get an achievement for doing that. I thought that was kind of funny. But obviously, when you finish the game, you get a different ending. So you have a couple different endings, at least, that you can get, so that's kind of cool. And I actually, like I said, I enjoyed the story overall. I enjoyed the lore. I enjoyed finding the little newspaper pieces and stuff like that where you can read about the lore of the world. I thought all of that stuff was really cool. I just wish that there was less puzzles because I'm just not a big puzzle fan. But for people who do like that, there's plenty of them. And the exploration, honestly, the studio's cool. The studio is really cool. I like the different areas of the studio. I like when the final area that's called the unfriendly neighborhood that you go to. I like the different areas. That stuff is really cool. It just, for me personally, there's just too many puzzles around for me to really enjoy the exploration and just enjoy the scenarios and stuff, because I feel like I was just being pulled back and forth, to the same places over and over again, and that kind of ruined my experience personally. But again, I know a lot of people will love that style of gameplay because a lot of people love, a lot of retro horror games that do the same thing. So it's just not my thing personally. Now, that being said, after I beat the game and got the real ending, not the not the one where you beat the game early, but when I got the actual ending at the end of the game, you do unlock a new game mode. You actually unlock a few different game modes, but you unlock one specifically that I want to talk about, which is called Neighborhood. And that one I actually really enjoy because that one, forget about the puzzles. No puzzles. It is just you with your guns, with your loadout, whatever character you pick. You actually get to pick characters in this version, which is pretty cool. So in Neighborhood, you actually get to pick your character, and they have their own loadout, and you get to just go nuts with whatever loadout you pick. And I love that. You can unlock new characters by getting higher scores. You can unlock new areas to play the Neighborhood mode in, and it is just you with the guns taking out a bunch of different puppets running at you and having a good old time doing it. And I really enjoyed that mode. That mode is actually my favorite in the game, and I'm glad that it's there because I feel like I at least get some sort of enjoyment and something I can go back and play this way, because I probably will never go back through the story mode again, but I could see myself going back and playing Neighborhood because I really enjoy doing that. And I love the fact that you have different, characters, and each character has a different loadout. I love that because, you start off with just Gordon and, some of the basic weapons that you have in the campaign, but then you can get to play as Junebug, one of the puppets, and she has a minigun and stuff like that. I love that one. And then I unlocked like a chicken character, and the chicken just has grenades only. And that one was a really wild character to play as also. So I love that game mode. That one is really fun. And I honestly would say that this game's almost worth it just for that game mode, because I really do enjoy that. I love horde-based, game modes in general. Kind of like, I wish it was more round-based, if I'm being honest. That's the only thing I'm not a huge fan of. It has just like a timer instead of being actually round-based. But I still really enjoy that style of gameplay. I mean, I grew up with Call of Duty Zombies, so I like that style of, like, just round-based gameplay where you're just fighting hordes and hordes of enemies. I think that's really fun. To save in this game, you actually have to find these little safe rooms, and these safe rooms will have these coin machines, and you can collect these coins, and you can insert a coin into the save machine, and you can save at those specific locations. So you can't just save at any time. You have to find these safe rooms to be able to save. And you can also heal in this game, and there's a few different ways to heal. You can find the actual, like, they kind of look like the old potion bottles from BioShock. You can find those, and you can use those to heal. Or you can actually use healing station, and the healing stations are usually in the same room as the saving stations, and you can take your coins and you can spend it on the healing station to heal your character up. And you'll definitely want to do that, because sometimes this game you'll get hit quite a bit from some of these enemies, and you definitely want to find those healing stations and make sure that your character always has enough health, especially in certain areas. Like, there's one area where the dogs start popping up, and those dogs attack you quick, so you need to be on top of your health and make sure that you have full health almost at all times. The game is very charismatic. I do like the way that the game looks. I love the characters. I love the voice acting. All that stuff, honestly, is really good. I think it honestly plays very well also. All that stuff, great. Didn't have a single issue with that stuff. My biggest problem is that I just kind of struggle with the actual genre of this game, because to me, this is a puzzle game before anything else, right? Like, it may be a survival horror game, but the way I view it is it's a puzzle game with horror elements, because there's so many puzzles in this game that becomes the main focus, it feels like to me. And that's just not personally my thing. I don't mind some puzzles, but when a game feels like it's primarily puzzles, that's when I kind of have an issue with it, and it's just not really my thing personally. But that being said, I still enjoyed the neighbor horde mode, so at least I did get to have some fun through this game. I'm not going to be able to recommend this game just for the fact that it'd be kind of wrong for me to recommend a game that I didn't personally love, but I can understand why people do enjoy this game, and if you are interested in it, I would watch a few other reviews as well from some people who actually do like this game and like the main story mode, and not someone like me who just likes the neighbor horde mode and just like shooting puppets, because I enjoyed that mode, but I can't really tell you to pick up a game based off of one game mode. So go check out some other reviewers as well, hear what they have to say about it, because personally, this just isn't my type of thing. If you're not a fan of puzzle games, you're probably not going to enjoy this either, because this is basically just a gigantic puzzle game. But thank you guys for watching. I'll talk to you in the next one. You have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.